The Galactic Cryptographic Council had gathered representatives from 47 species across the Andromeda Spiral. Each delegation brought their finest minds: the crystalline Vorthak with their quantum processing matrices, the hive-minded Zephyrians whose collective intelligence spanned entire star systems, and the ancient ethereals whose consciousness existed in pure mathematical abstractions. At the center of the grand amphitheater, a holographic display showed the artifact that had stumped them all: the Nexus cipher. Discovered in the ruins of a dead civilization on the Rim worlds, it was a cryptographic puzzle of staggering complexity. The symbols seemed to shift and dance, reorganizing themselves in patterns that defied conventional analysis. Embedded within its structure were star charts, technological blueprints, and what appeared to be the location of something called the Universal Archive, a repository of knowledge from the first sentient species to achieve transcendence. For 3 cycles, our greatest minds have attempted to decode this cipher, announced Prime Analyst Kethvar, her 4 arms gesturing at the display. The Nexus cipher employs 17 distinct encryption layers, quantum-entangled symbol sets, and temporal displacement algorithms. Our combined processing power equals that of a small star, yet we have made no meaningful progress. The assembled delegates murmured agreement in their various languages, clicks, harmonics, and telepathic pulses filling the chamber. The Vorthak representative, a towering crystal being named Resonance of Stars, projected its thoughts into the communal consciousness. Perhaps this knowledge was never meant to be unlocked. The mathematical impossibility suggests divine protection. Or, countered Hive Speaker Zix of the Zephyrians, the creators possessed cognitive architecture beyond our current understanding. Their neural patterns may have operated on principles we cannot comprehend. As the debate continued, nobody noticed the small human delegation in the corner, 2 beings from the recently contacted species that had only just achieved faster-than-light travel. Earth's representatives consisted of Dr. Sarah Chen, a xenolinguist, and her companion Marcus Webb, who had introduced himself simply as someone who likes puzzles. Marcus sat quietly, munching on what appeared to be a breakfast pastry while studying the cipher on his primitive handheld device. Unlike the others, he wasn't running massive computational analyses or applying theoretical frameworks. Instead, he tilted his head, squinted at the patterns, and occasionally made notes on an actual piece of paper with an archaic writing instrument. "The temporal displacement is fascinating," Dr. Chen whispered to him. "The symbols literally exist in multiple time states simultaneously." Marcus nodded absently, then paused mid-chew. "Huh, that's interesting." "What is?" "It's not temporal displacement," he said, wiping crumb from his mouth. "It's just really, really good misdirection." Dr. Chen stared at him. Across the amphitheater, the greatest minds in the galaxy continued their heated debate about quantum consciousness and trans-dimensional mathematics. Marcus stood up, brushing crumbs off his jacket. "Excuse me?" he called out, his voice somehow carrying across the vast chamber. The debate ceased. Thousands of eyes, sensors, and consciousness nodes turned toward the small human. "I think I've got it figured out," Marcus announced casually. The silence that followed could have been cut with a molecular blade. Prime Analyst Kethvar's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Excuse me, human. Did you just claim to have solved the Nexus cipher?" "Yeah, pretty much." Marcus walked toward the central display, still carrying his breakfast pastry. "Though, to be fair, I've been looking at it for about 20 minutes while you all were talking." Resonance of Stars projected disbelief so strongly that nearby beings felt it as physical pressure. "Impossible. Our quantum matrices have processed this puzzle for 3 cycles. No single biological mind could—" "That's your problem, right?" "There," Marcus interrupted, pointing at the hologram. "You're all thinking like computers. This wasn't made by computers." He gestured at the shifting symbols. "Look, everyone assumes the movement is part of the encryption, right? All this temporal displacement, quantum uncertainty, very impressive stuff. But what if it's not cryptography at all? What if it's just decoration?" The chamber erupted in skeptical clicks and harmonics. Marcus raised his hand for quiet. Think about it. You find this thing in ancient ruins. It's obviously important, right? So the builders wanted it to look mysterious and impressive. All this fancy movement. The impossible mathematics. It's exactly what you'd add if you wanted people to think it was incredibly complex. He pulled out his paper notes. But underneath all the light show, there's a pattern. It's actually based on something incredibly simple. The Fibonacci sequence, but adjusted for base 12 mathematics. The quantum entanglement is just the symbols, following predictable mathematical relationships. And the temporal displacement? That's just the display cycling through solutions at different speeds to make it look chaotic. Marcus approached the hologram and began pointing at specific sections. See this recurring motif? It's not a cipher at all. It's a table of contents. These aren't star charts. They're page numbers. And this bit here that everyone thought was the location of the Universal Archive? It's actually just the cosmic equivalent of property of the Nexus Library. Please return when done. The chamber fell completely silent. Even the background hum of various life support systems seemed muted. Prime Analyst Kethvar finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Are you suggesting that the greatest cryptographic challenge in galactic history is a library card? Marcus shrugged, taking another bite of his pastry. Yeah, pretty much. Though to be fair, it's a really fancy library card. He tapped his primitive device. I've already decoded the first section. It's an index to a collection of philosophical texts. Nothing too exciting. Mostly debates about whether consciousness can exist without physical form. Pretty standard stuff for an advanced civilization. The Vorthak representative's crystalline form dimmed with what could only be described as embarrassment. The Zephyrian hive mind retreated into collective meditation. The ethereals simply vanished from their quantum probability clouds. Dr. Chen looked at her colleague with new respect. Marcus, how did you see what they couldn't? Marcus finished his breakfast and crumpled the wrapper. Simple. They were looking for complexity because they're all incredibly complex beings. But humans, we're really good at finding the simple answer hidden behind complicated-looking problems. It's kind of our thing. He glanced around the stunned chamber. Plus, I do the Sunday crossword puzzle, same principle really. Looks impossible until you find the right angle. Then it's just a matter of filling in the blanks. As the greatest minds in the galaxy sat in stunned silence. Marcus Webb, puzzle enthusiast from Ohio, had solved their greatest mystery before finishing his breakfast. And somewhere in the quantum foam of spacetime, the long-dead Nexus civilization was probably laughing at the cosmic joke they'd played on future archaeologists. After all, the best security isn't complexity, it's making everyone else overthink the problem.